Still me, Ryan McCaffrey, Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Unofficial Podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out. My next panel, our next piece of the day's programming, I'd like you to welcome tire engineer Russell Shepard from Michelin. We're going to learn some things about tires. Russell, you were on my podcast late last year, but and of course the Michelin Man is going to join us as well.
So give a round of applause to my friend, the Michelin Man.
Russell is contractually obligated to travel with the Michelin Man everywhere he goes. You know, just to be safe. Thank you, Michelin Man. Appreciate it. We'll have a seat.
All right.
Let's talk some tire stuff, because you and I met at a Florida Tesla event a couple years ago. And at that point in time, I was nearing the point of needing tire replacement. And I have a 2018 Model 3 Performance, which came with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. Super sticky summer tire, which is great for here in California, great for launching, great for going 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. And at that point, you guys had a couple of other options since I had bought my car in 2018, and you were really kind to just help guide me towards the best tire for me, which ended up, I stuck with the Pilot Sport 4S. But now, you're here, you're in the Michelin tent. If you haven't been over there, it's the yellow flag. Look for the yellow flags over there. Check this out, because you guys have a brand new tire, an EV tire that you're unveiling. And that's where I just want to start, because you and I were talking about that, just you and me earlier, because I really wanted to know for my future tire reference purposes. Tell us about this new tire. What is it? What is the advantage over previous generation Michelins and just other competitor tires? Like, just give us the lowdown on this new one.
Yeah, so I'm glad to be here and to launch, to debut our new product. It's the Michelin e.Primacy All Season. The E stands for efficiency. We're debuting it for fitments for the Tesla Model Y and the Model 3. There'll be other sizes as well. But really what it does is helps complete our portfolio for those consumers who want a tire that's efficient, both in terms of rolling resistance, which has an impact on range, and quiet, noise, and comfort. So that's the tire that we have coming out, and it completes our portfolio of offers for consumers who value efficiency, and that's particularly EV consumers.
Yeah, we are a hyper-miling crowd, aren't we?
Yeah.
We do like to squeeze every last bit of efficiency out of our vehicles.
But that makes sense. So just a little bit of the science behind it. An internal combustion engine, about 70% of the energy that engine generates is lost before it ever hits the ground. And that's because of the energy loss and the heat generation from the engine, the transmission, and the exhaust. You flip that, and for an electric vehicle, it's really only about 30% loss.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so what happens in that case is the energy loss of a tire, which we call rolling resistance, counts quite a bit more. And it's noticeable. So it's the kind of thing that we've been working on for decades and decades. And with the advent of the electric vehicle, now consumers can see the differences from one tire to another in how much energy they consume and how much range you have in an electric vehicle.
By the way, the Michelin Man is like staring into my soul from the back of the room, and I just I'm feeling it. It's I appreciate the love. I'm getting the thumbs up back there. He's always watching. He's always watching out. But yeah, like tire. Can you talk to me a little bit about how far tire tech in general has come, and even just the last 5 or 10 years? Again, let's say my Model 3 is now 6 years old. There's folks here that have had a Model S or for the last 10 years. Because even the compounds, the tread patterns, there's like it's not just rubber thrown onto a wheel. Like there's an insane amount of technological advancement that you guys have cooked up over the last even several years.
Yeah. So I've been designing tires for about 25 years. And throughout my career, we have been somewhat obsessed with efficient tires. In fact, it was over 25 years ago, about 30 years ago, that we introduced our first Green X efficient tire. Since that time, we have continued to advance. So the first technology we did was we introduced silicon to tires. And what that allowed us to do is to make tires that were more efficient and still give you great traction and wear. And we continue to advance our compounds through resins and other technologies to give you great traction, both in all types of weather and lower rolling resistance, which means more range for you. At the same time, we're working on wear. Again, before electric vehicles, we have always worked to make tires last longer. And there's a lot of engineering in that. You can always add more rubber to a tire, but if you add more rubber to a tire, you actually make the tires wear longer. I mean, you make them have
Wear
a higher
quickly.
rolling resistance, which is worse for you. So the trick is to make a tire that gives you lower rolling resistance, preserves or improves your range, and gives you more wear. And that's kind of our obsession now. I mean, we've been really excited about electric vehicles because we really get to showcase the things that we've always loved to do for years.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, how many of you have Model 3s with 18-inch wheels on them in this group? Like, yeah, pretty good number. I mean, you guys from day one had the MXM4, correct? So a lot of you are, whether you know it or not, are rolling on custom. Those are custom for Tesla, were they not?
Yeah, so that particular MXM4 is designed with a compound that is specifically designed for lower rolling resistance to maximize your range. And that design has been out for a while. Now we have the e.Primacy all season, and that's the next generation of technologies. If you look at kind of our efficiency, comfort tire line, it's this Primacy family, and it's been around for years. And over the last 15 years, we've been able to improve the efficiency by about 25%. And I can promise you, you could see that difference over time if you had the opportunity in the range of your vehicle.
So basically, you're talking about, let's say, a 250-mile range car is going to go like 30, 40 miles, no more than that.
So let's see, I said 25%.
60 miles, about 60 miles further on.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Compared to what they might have
If it's
done before.
25%, and if I think about the ratio of what that translates into your car, that's going to be about a 3% difference in range, probably 3 to 5% difference in range, and that's over the life of that particular family.
But that's taking the life over.
Right.
That's a lot of miles.
Yeah, right. And keep in mind, when you talk about the mileage of an electric vehicle, you quote a mileage, but most of the time you only charge it to 80%. And you charge it before it gets to absolute zero. So it's 20% chopped off the top, and it's probably 20% chopped off the bottom. Your real range is 60% of whatever the full potential is for most times. And so that's when those percentages start to matter.
You're talking about this new tire, the e.Primacy, being the next gen tire, and you're in the efficiency sense of things. Do you have any sort of contextual data by chance you can share, like how much better these are over kind of what you've been selling for Teslas recently? Is there any sort of even just ballpark?
So what I would say is, when you look at where the e.Primacy all season fits, for certain fitments, Teslas did not come with a Michelin tire. And so we had options like the kind of your ultimate traction, which is the Michelin Cross Climate 2, or the Michelin Defender, which is your ultimate wear. And those did not have the full range of efficiency and noise reduction technologies that are available. And that's what this does. So what you'll see if we go across the range of products that we'll have is you might see about a 5% swing, maybe a little bit more than that, between our product lines from what you get on the e.Primacy all season. So that's the point. It's all about giving you the choice, right? Do you want ultimate comfort and efficiency? That's the e.Primacy all season. If you want ultimate traction, there's a Cross Climate 2 for that, and ultimate wear life, durability is a Defender. And it's giving you the choice, and they're all EV ready.
I mean, you mentioned that you've been engineering tires for 25 years. EVs have really only come to the forefront over the last, basically 10, 12 since, I mean, yeah, we had the original Roadster, but since really the Model S kind of accelerated things forward. And the future is EVs. Like I can't imagine you disagree with that. I would imagine that as an engineer, it's more exciting than ever in your career at this point because EVs present so many more opportunities and challenges as well because of the weight of the cars, but also that never-ending quest for efficiency.
So there are three things about EVs and tires that you need to consider. One is generally, it's the truth, they're heavier, right? We can have discussions about whether they're 10 or 20% heavier, but let's just say they're heavier. And what that does is you've got a choice. It's not a tire that holds up the car that carries that weight. It's the air in the tire. And so you have two choices. You either put more air in the tire, which increases the air pressure, or you make a larger tire. If you put more air in the tire, it increases the air pressure, and that pressure, kind of order zero, is equivalent to the stresses and the pressure on the ground. And so for more air pressure, the tire wears faster. The other thing about more air pressure is it changes the noise. If you think about a basketball, you get a certain sound. And the more air in it, you put in it, you balance it, the more you get that ringing and pinging sound. That's true for tires. That's called cavity noise. So we have a couple things that we do. If the choice is to increase the air pressure, we make tires that wear longer. So we've maintained the warranty. For example, the e.Primacy line is 45,000 miles, but we increase the wear potential. And our goal is that whether you drive an EV or not, you get 45,000 miles, okay? The other thing we do is we put technologies in the tire to reduce the noise. We put acoustic foam in the tire, which reduces that pinging, that cavity noise. We design the tread blocks with computer simulations and calculations to generate less noise. We call that piano tuning. And now on e.Primacy all season, we have this silent rib technology that helps dissipate the noise better that's generated by the road. So all of that is to help. I think what you may see in the future to deal with that weight is that tires will get larger, and that'll address the wear. The other thing that I just talked about is noise. So you take away the engine, the transmission, and the exhaust.
And all you hear is tires at that point.
Right. So that's why we work so hard and so diligently to improve the noise. And the last but not least, and we talked about this, is the range, right? And so we talked about how tires can make a difference. I did a study, bought a bunch of tires on the market, not just Michelin's, and I saw a range swing of about over 10% between, on the same vehicle, same Tesla, same route, repeated studies, a noticeable change in range depending on what tire you pick. So those are the things that you need to think about, and those are the things as a tire engineer we obsess over. And the nice thing is they're more noticeable in EVs. So for a tire person like me, a tire engineer, it's fun.
So is that kind of where, because I know in my earlier years of driving, like in my 20s when I didn't, out of college, didn't have a ton of money, and it came time to replace the tires on my car, I have definitely cheaped out on tires before. And so what is everything you're saying kind of what happens, like what the difference is between paying less for a tire and paying more, that you're gonna not see the efficiency, you're gonna not see the wear the way that you want to?
So I'll be honest, long before I worked for Michelin, I did the same thing. And it's interesting, I finally spent enough money to buy a Michelin tire and I never regretted it. Used that in my interview with Michelin, and it must have worked because I've now been working for Michelin for 25 years. So yeah, but even in this study, they were, I would say, good tires for traction, but there's still amount of technology and detail that you put in it that makes a difference. And certainly, as you go to the range of tires, you will get to understand the value that you have if you go back and forth in some of those tires. Some of the best customers we have are ones that have gone to different offers on the market and have come back to Michelin's.
By customers, are you talking about individual customers or companies when you say that?
Individual customers.
Yeah, okay. Michelin tires, I think, I would certainly say this based on everything I've heard and experienced. Like Michelin tires have a pretty good reputation as being good tires. Like what do you where do you think that comes from? Like what is it like? Why are Michelin tires regarded well?
It's interesting. We are, I think, somewhat obsessed or really passionate about the performance of our tires on vehicles. We invest quite a bit in research and development, which is why it's cool to be an engineer for Michelin, because you really play a key role in that product. And it is part of what we do. So we're always looking for making tires, that perfect tire for every customer. We haven't figured out how to do that yet, but we keep trying. And so we make several tires and try to meet your needs, right, as we continue to evolve and innovate. And now our next passion that we're working towards is sustainability. So not only do we want to continue to improve the performance of our tires, but we want to do it in a way that makes them more sustainable. And so that's our goals, is all of this plus making a tire that we can all be comfortable with in terms of the environment.
So the new one, the e.Primacy, it's available in 18, 19, and 20 for Model 3. So it's any size of Model 3, right? And then 19, 20, 21.
So it's available. It'll launch in 4 sizes in September.
Okay.
So it'll launch in the 19 and 20 inch on the 3, and the 19. Excuse me. Yeah, it'll launch in 19 and 20 inch on the Model 3, and the 19 and 20 inch on the Model Y. Yeah.
Okay. So that's covering a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then I know you're not the sales guy with the sales sheet in front of you. You're the guy engineering the tires, but like just contextually speaking, are the new e.Primacies roughly the same price as like say the previous Tesla fitting Michelins, or are they a little more, a little less? Like kind of where do they fall in the spectrum generally?
So what I will say is, I don't get into the pricing. I'm an engineer who works in marketing, and that's beyond me. But I don't expect any Michelin consumers to be surprised or put off by the pricing.
I mean, I know for me, people that listen to my podcast know that I tore through the first set of my 20-inch Pilot Sport 4S's pretty quickly, because you get the performance Model 3 and you want to just let it rip for a while.
You have to. You kind of have to.
Yeah. No regrets. Second set, managed to get 32,000 miles out of them, which for me seemed good. I know for a lot of people that's like, oh, that's it. But you mentioned so $45K is what you're warrantying for,
right, on
these new ones.
Yeah. So if you look at the history of the Primacy tire line, it's typically a 45,000 mile warranty. We have other offers with more warranties, and we're sticking with that 45,000. But again, our intention is that EV consumers get 45,000, and so that's what we're continuously designing our tires for, the e.Primacy all season and all of our tires. So what you have seen over the last 2 years, and you'll continue to see, is we'll probably pretty much stick to our mileage warranty, but we'll add more wear potential in the tires for EV consumers.
Nice. What are there common mistakes that people tend to make when buying tires, or things they should watch out for maybe?
So I think things to keep in mind when you're buying tires is to understand what you want out of a tire. It gets back to that comment I made earlier about we would love to make the perfect tire for everybody, but no one's going to define the perfect tire the same way. So ask yourself, particularly if you're an EV consumer, I'll ask you the question if you talk to me, how many times do you charge? If you charge if you charge regularly, then you may not be as sensitive to range, okay? And you don't have long commutes. If you're charging every day, that's probably, and you're filling up, you probably need to pay attention to that. The other one is, think about your commute. Is it a noisy commute? Do you have a lot of noisy, bumpy roads? If that's the case, then you may want a tire that's best optimized for noise. And the Primacy family of tires is a great choice for you, right? The other question is, what kind of weather do you drive in? So here in California, it's typically dry, but do you ever go and drive in the snow? Do you care about that kind of snow protection? How much traction, how much range do you have? So those are kind of the questions that you need to ask yourself. And within that, I'm pretty sure we have a tire for you, right? And then last but not least, what's the range that, how long do you want this tire to last? If all you care about is wear, we've got a Defender product that's great for you.
So you've got, even if you're not the OEM provider for every wheel, every variant of Tesla, but do you guys have something that fits every single Tesla at this point, including Cybertruck, right? When you were showing me at the booth earlier.
We've got you covered.
Yeah. So you've got something for everybody.
We've got you covered, yeah.
Tesla, if I remember correctly, these days guides, I think they recommend rotating tires every 6,000 miles. I have to ask the tire engineer if you agree with that, or if you think more often's better or less often's fine. Do you have any thoughts on that, Russell?
So Michelin's recommendations are every 6,000 to 8,000 miles. Rotate your tires, which aligns fairly well there.
Yeah.
The trick for an EV consumer is to remember that, right? Because if you got an internal combustion engine, oil change, and maybe you think about rotating your tires. But you only really replace two things in the EV: wiper blades and tires. And so, you on your show, you taught me a trick for that. Why don't you tell everybody about the trick you use?
Well, I can't take credit for it. One of my listeners. So on my weekly podcast, Ride the Lightning, towards the end, there is a pro tip of the week section where people can submit via a recorded message just a little pro tip, something that's not obvious about your car. And one of the great ones that I always love it when it's something that I don't know, even though I've been doing this for a long time, but I still learn stuff all the time from people. And this one was there is a section in the UI now. If you tap service in your menu in the car, there is Tesla has specifically included a little reset counter for tire rotation. So you can it'll be like last rotation, and it'll just automatically track it for you. Because I used to use one of the trip meters for that, because you can rename them, as you all know. You can rename them whatever you want. But now Tesla's actually given you a dedicated one. It's just in the service menu, and then when you get your tires rotated, you reset it. So I'll use that one. I use it now.
That's a pretty cool trick. I appreciate that.
For those of us with summer performance tires, which is probably a good number of us here in California, just how serious is that whole don't drive on these in sub 40-degree weather stipulation? Is that a warning, or is that a really don't do that?
Please don't. So let me explain why. So we designed those tires to have kind of this ultimate driving traction experience, particularly in dry.
They're soft, right? Soft compound?
Well, they're made to evolve, especially when they get hot. Some of them, they actually perform better when they get hot. And we design them for that because as you corner and you're driving more, the tires get hot, and that's when they get better. If you ever look at a race, you see the drivers doing this, swerving back and forth, they're actually heating the tires. And we know this because we make race tires. And that's part of the thought that we put into it. And so tires, rubber has this thing called a glass transition temperature. And for summer tires, it's higher. So they function better when they're hot, and they also are designed to give you good wet traction when it rains in the summer. So as you get colder, those great properties that give you that great traction and wet in general, they change, they reduce themselves. So if you drive a summer tire below 40, you will see your wet traction drop significantly. And in fact, if you drive it in very, very cold conditions, a summer tire, the tire will actually crack. So please don't. We have great options for you, either an all-season option, it's a pretty good option in California, or if you're in serious snow, we have other options as well.
What are some general tips that you can give people to get more life out of your tires? Is it anything besides the basics?
So the basics are some pretty good tips, and I'll go over those. So one is, is rotate your tires, again, every 6,000 to 8,000 miles. The other one is make sure you have enough air in your tires. And that's particularly important for EV consumers because having the proper tire inflation can have an impact on the rolling resistance and thus the range of your vehicle. So tires are designed to operate, have a certain footprint shape and certain pressures at the right pressure on the ground. And when you deviate from that, you get more wear in one spot versus another because the pressure on the ground is differentiated. So keep your tires inflated. We recommend you check your tire pressure at least once a month. If it gets cold in the winter, that should be an instant trigger. If your temperature goes down about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, you might lose a PSI or two. So definitely keep your tires inflated, check them, make sure there's no damage, and rotate them every 6,000 to 8,000 miles, and you should be fine.
I actually drove down here from San Francisco this morning, and it was about 60 degrees most of the way, and I noticed, I was like, oh, let me just take a quick peek. You just slide over to the tire. And I was only at 42 PSI, which is what's recommended. But it's like, oh, I've been driving for a while. These should be a little higher. I was like, I need to air these up a little bit when I get home.
That's exactly the thought that was going through my head, yeah. But that's a good point, a bit of advice. The recommended inflation pressure is when your tires are cold. So they've been sitting around for a while. It's not the inflation pressure you want after you've been driving for 30 minutes or an hour. As you drive, the tire pressure will go up, and that's fine. We design it for that. And the target pressure is when it's cold.
Are you a person that recommends buying road hazard warranties, or is that something you don't even think about? Like, because things happen on the roads.
Sure. So what I would say is, overall, I don't really have an opinion on that. That's a personal choice as to what you want to do there. Some of the road hazard programs might be interesting if you're in areas that have a lot of road hazards. Keep in mind that Michelin and pretty much all other tire manufacturers, we allow tires to be repaired if they're punctured in the summit. And there's a limit to that, and it varies from one manufacturer to another, and there's some rules about it as well. But tire punctures in the sidewalls are not repairable. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're in an area and you get a lot of those, it may be interesting for you.
You've been at quite a number of Tesla events now. You and I together have been at several. I'm curious, what are your impressions of the Tesla community and of Teslas as the vehicles themselves as a tire engineer? Because you've probably, just in your line of work, you've probably driven a million different cars to test a million different things.
So let's talk about what I appreciate about a Tesla is what I think a lot of us do. The first time you get in there and you punch that gas, and you get that immediate acceleration, right? So that's pretty cool. They're a thrill, right? They're a thrill. What I appreciate about the community is I look out and I see all the different variations of Teslas. I look out and I see how they change the shades. There's different equipments. There's different steering wheels. And I love this. This is a community that's passionate about vehicles. They're passionate about their particular types of vehicles, and you're sharing it, and you're looking for ways to customize and improve it and make it yours, right? And that's part, I think, of the adventure, and I love that about the community, and that's why I'm here year after year. I love it. And for me, as a tire engineer, I'm always learning about what you like and what you want and what you're looking for, what you're interested in, and I take that back, and we take that into account in the next generation of tires, like the e.Primacy all season.
Oh, that was a brilliant. Your PR guy will be thrilled at that last little segue. That was perfect. All right, last questions. We got about just a minute left. If I handed you a gift card, so it's not cash, it's a gift card to Tesla.com, redeemable for any vehicle Tesla makes. What are you choosing? What's your favorite Tesla? What would you take home today if you could? We got 5 now. Actually, technically,
a Plaid.
There's an original Roadster over there.
A Plaid.
Plaid S or X?
Yes. Yeah. That's just a thrill.
Have you driven one?
I've driven one once. Yes, that's a thrill. Yeah. So I mean, that's like ultimate. Yeah, that would be it. Because I enjoy driving.
Yeah, I say it on my podcast a lot. I think it's the best overall car in the world. It just checks so many boxes. It's practically an SUV in terms of cargo.
Yeah.
You got the safety. You got world-class supercar performance. It's amazing. Good choice. Russell Shepard from Michelin. Be sure to visit their booth. Learn about that new EV, that e.Primacy tire. That's looking real sharp. Russell, thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Be back with our next panel in a few minutes.